to another episode of Iconic Freedom, the formula. We are setting a standard for accountability and responsibility, owning our choices, being able to respond to those choices in our own personal universe. Let each care for self, and all will be cared for. So I know it's interesting. I know that's a little, I don't know, it's a little creepy, obviously. But the point that I wanted to make with this, and this is kind of interesting. When I started thinking, contemplating, noodling what I was going to talk about for this weekend, I knew that I wanted to talk about the awakening relationship. As you start to go through your relationships with your family, with your friends, your partner, your job maybe, I wanted to kind of example something of that development of self. It occurred to me the other day, I was watching something on TV and I saw this actress that had been on television. And I thought it was so interesting, and I've thought this for years, that, some people are born with a vitality for life. They're just, you can tell that just genuinely within they are good people. And as a result, I think what happens over time, well, not I think, I know, over time that with your choices that you make in your life, it can move you in various directions, right? It can move you towards something or away from it. And I think if you're an individual, stay with me on this, if you're an individual that does not take accountability and responsibility, then I think what happens is you move towards that ugliness of life eventually. So you will supposedly have successes throughout at various times, but it'll never be the beauty of, say, the other characters in the movie, right? It would never be the beauty of the elves, let's say. Let's use that as contrast, because, they acted in a particular way. And the same is true, I would say, as I'm applying this analogy, to us as individuals and the relationship that you have with yourself first and foremost. Because when you get into other relationships, you start interacting with the world. If you're compromising yourself by allowing things to happen, allowing things to occur that you would not necessarily want to be a part of your life, every time you transgress your own internal authority, you move a little bit closer to looking like Gollum. So, and there are people out there that if you, there's lots of celebrities and other people of that nature that If you look at them when they were younger, yes, everybody ages. However, there are some people that when you look at them, their aging process, you look at it and you're like, wow, how is it that that person is 60 or that person is 70 or 80? And it's pretty remarkable. There's been a number of celebrities that I would point you towards as example of that so that you could look to see who were they. Yes, some things are genetic, yada, yada, yada. However, if you are a person that on top of your genetics, you still choose wrongly throughout your entire life, you compromise your life, what does that do to you over time? Because it's not just the emotional things. We look at life holistically, right? You've been following this podcast. You know that that's how we want to look at life, is that holistic approach. Everything that you're doing. How are you managing your physicality? What are you putting into your mouth? How are you eating? How are you taking care of yourself? How are you providing nutrition for yourself so that you keep that vitality? If you're a younger person listening to this podcast, you're at a terrific spot right now, right? Because, you can make some choices that will have lifelong outcomes and consequences that can be remarkable. For quite a few people that are in mid-range, they're just coming into it. They're just coming into their own, and they're just coming into their awakening. And they're realizing, oh my gosh, I've got to clean up all of this garbage. It isn't just about, being able to, yes, you just make different choices, but the older you get, the more you got to go back and clean up. And the longer that can take, right? And that's why I had mentioned last week is that, I think some people, they just get to a spot where they're just like, okay, what's the point? And they kind of give up. But for those that don't, that's because they hold within them, internally, they have a drive, an urging of life, if you will, of vitality that wants to move them to a different place, to a place of enjoyment and happiness and all those other good things. Now, is the universe interested in all of that? I don't know. I'm agnostic to it. But what I do observe is that the more a person does it, the better their life becomes. The more they accept accountability and responsibility, the better and easier their life becomes. Why? Because you don't even worry about it. I was talking to my friend John, and we were discussing this whole thing about, when I was at a job and, in the past, and I had a thing where it kind of smarts when you leave, because if you don't leave everything absolutely positively pristine, people want to throw you under the bus, right? They don't want to take any accountability. So they say, oh, Greg didn't set it up right. And, those kinds of things. And, both of us were discussing that, and that, as you move past that, as you take more accountability in your life, you no longer care about that. Why? Because you can answer to all of it. You're able to say, yes, I was able to manage this, or no, I was not able to manage that. And in some instances, most instances, you can't control anything. All you can do is make choices that are responsible, have integrity, have character, that, show a consistency in what and who you are. That's all you've got. And there will be people that see that, and then there will be people that will not see that. And the ones that will not see it, there's nothing you can do about them anyway. Who they are, how they've developed, where they are in that journey of life for themselves will be determinative if they're able to see it in you. Okay, so here's a secret that I know. Wherever you are at, that's where the universe will meet you in terms of bringing you experiences. If you're a particular individual who has vitality in many areas, life will bring you experiences in many areas that match that vitality. If you're a person that has vitality in one area, the universe will bring that to you. How does that happen? I don't know. I just observe it. All I do, all these decades, all I've done is observe it. I don't know how it happens. And to be frank, I don't know that it really matters. If you observe it and you see it for yourself, is that good enough? It seems good enough for me. In my endeavor in my life, in what I'm doing, it's perfectly fine. It's fantastic, as a matter of fact. When you take manageability over your life, when you have a consistency, you hear a lot of people will want to use the word fair, and, that's just not right. And really what they're trying to say is they're not seeing a consistency in choices, a consistency, I don't know, from their interactions with people, maybe their government. The government is very inconsistent. And we see that all around us. And as we talked last week about this awakening of checking out information, being vigilant to information and making sure that you take care of self, in making sure that you are discerning for yourself, you are looking into things, you're paying attention. So what does this have to do with the awakening relationship? Well, it has to do initially with you, the relationship with yourself, and understanding for yourself what are your motivations for what you're doing when you're doing it. And I think I've mentioned this before, is that I went down this path where at one point, for a number of months, I just questioned everything that I did. I mean, everything. Sometimes it got down to the minutia of I just walk away from a particular interaction with somebody and I thought, why did I move my hands? Or like right now when I'm talking, I'm moving my hands, I'm shrugging my shoulders, I'm smiling. I mean, it's like, why? What was that all about for you, Greg? And it could be just that's the form of expression that I have. Okay, are you good with that or you're not good with that? And is that something you feel like you want to change, or is that something you don't want to change? The same became apparent in what I was doing in terms of my physicality. Was I going to the gym? Was I walking? What was I doing? Those kinds of things. What was I eating? Was I eating good food, or was I just, or what I was doing was, eating chocolate, or because that's one of my favorite things. If you've not been to See's Candy and had a dark chocolate chip truffle, when you want to do something and you want to splurge, that's a good way to go. If you're in New York, I would say go to Levain Cookie, one of the best cookies I've ever had in the world. Anyways, I digress. But I was examining all of those things, and I was paying attention to my choices, and I was understanding the motivation and the integrity within my choices. When I crossed over to a place where I just knew the integrity and character of who I was always deeply rooted in accountability, owning my choice, and being responsible to those choices, then I no longer even thought about it. I mean, it was just second nature. It became part of what I would say my genetic code and my DNA. I would imagine if I had offspring, that they would be born with this. This would be something that would be natural and that would come from them naturally. I remember saying once to a friend that we worked together, and it just kind of came to me in a conversation, and I said, please do not let people take advantage of your good nature. It's like, you are a good person, you're a kind person, and that's who you are. That comes from you, that comes from the internal to the external. You want to make sure that you don't allow people to take advantage of that. And the way you don't allow that is by basically just being observant. And that when you have that hint of, that little flash point, that moment of understanding, of instinct, if you will, if that's easier to digest, then act on that. if you have a sense, and here's the great part about it, you can't make the wrong choice. There is no right or wrong in it. If you are having an experience with someone and you have that moment of, that seems kind of odd, let that be your guide. Let reality be your guide. Walk away, if that's what you're supposed to do. Or if it's like, oh no, that's kind of interesting, I think I'm going to follow that, then do that. Because what you're doing for yourself is you are teaching yourself what you've not been taught, right? That phrase from Tina Turner that we heard last year. You're teaching yourself what you were not taught, which is to follow your internal authority. Forget all the garbage, forget all the societal stuff of, don't judge a book by its cover, blah, blah, blah. Ignore all of that. Go back to your own internal authority, because the goodness in you is going to come forth no matter what. If you are acting with integrity based on accountability, that's going to come through. How could you possibly go wrong? How could you be wrong? You cannot. You can't do anything wrong when you're acting from that place. Now, if you're acting from another place, but you're paying attention, then the outcome will tell you you transgressed yourself. You overstepped, or you didn't step far enough, or you compromised yourself. I know from observation that compromise is a cancer. And it is a cancer that will metastasize, it will develop, and it will metastasize through a person's entire life. And at some point, it will present a bill. Now, there are a lot of people out there that maybe don't think that. They think, or they believe that, it has to do with, what I eat, or this, or that, or the other thing. Okay, those things might be true holistically. It might be part of what you eat and all these other things. I've known people that have had cancer that it shocks me at what they decide they're going to put in their mouth after learning that they have cancer. I'm like, good gracious. If you've ever followed Dr. Anthony Chafee or Dr. Sean Baker, they have lots of videos out there talking about, a various type of eating, carnivore diet, that kind of stuff. And some cases where people had cancer and it eliminated their cancer. It eliminated a lot of physical situations that they were having. Now, is that true for everyone? I don't know. All I can tell you is anecdotally, what they've presented seems pretty powerful and seems pretty strong. And I've even noticed it in my own life. That, I had a knee problem years ago. I blew out my ACL. When I've had the most problem is when I've had the worst diet, when I've not been taking care of myself, when I've been transgressing my own policy and standard of accountability, and I've allowed myself to do or say or be involved in things that I didn't want to be involved with. Or I didn't, why was I putting another cookie in my mouth? And it created inflammation and all this other shenanigans. Anyway, I got clear with myself. I understood what that was. If I decided to go down that road, I made the decision. There's a great scene from a movie, and I'm going to show it to you right now, and I hope you enjoy it.
Look, I know I'm supposed to be a good little girl for my mother and father, a obedient wife to my husband, stick out my tongue for the doctor, lower my head for the judge. I know all that. I know what you expect me to do. But I'm not just a picture in your heads. Do you understand? I'm not just a daughter or a wife or a hooker or a patient or a defendant. Can't you get that? You think giving blowjobs for $500 is nuts, huh? Well, I know women who marry men they despise so they can drive a Mercedes and spend summers in the Hamptons. I know women who crawl through shit for a fur coat. I know women who peddle their daughters to hang on to their husbands. So don't judge my blowjobs. They're sane. I knew what I was doing every goddamn minute, and I'm responsible for it. I lift my skirt, I'm responsible. I go down on my knees, I am responsible. Now, if I play this part you all seem to want me to play, if I play sick, I won't be responsible. Poor sick Claudia. She needs our help. Well, I won't play that part. You hear me? I won't give you that out. I won't be another picture in your heads, Claudia the Nut. Do you get what I'm telling you? Now, he can sign a piece of paper saying I'm nuts. But it's only a piece of paper. And you can't make me nuts that way, no matter how many times you sign it. And no matter how many times you say it, you can't make me nuts. Or you, Mama. Just get it straight, all of you. I won't be nuts for you. Did you get that?
A very interesting clip. But, there was some interesting things about that movie, and that play was actually a play on Broadway. But again, even to the extreme, that person, that individual, that character is saying, I am responsible. And it makes a difference in your life and where your life goes. And we are at the end of another podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you find this useful. If you did, share it with your family and friends. You never know how it might help them transform their own life. Hey, if you don't mind, hit that like button if you would. If you want to subscribe, that would be awesome. And I'll see you next week.